Welcome to the PR Bunker podcast, where we explore the strategy behind brands, leadership, and the signals that shape how people remember you. Today's guest is Jeff McQuilkin, composer, creative strategist, and expert in sonic branding. Jeff breaks down what sonic branding actually is and why it's far more than a jingle or catchy tune. We dive into how intentional audio identities can drive brand recall, create emotional resonance, and help small businesses stand out in an increasingly crowded and noisy marketplace. And now, here's your host, CEO of the PR Bunker and communications strategist who believes brand isn't just what you say, it's what people remember, Don Martelli. Let's get into it.
What's up, folks? Welcome back to the bunker. Now, you might be saying, it sounds a little different around here these days. I've been following this podcast, and all of a sudden there's a different music track. Things are different at the front end of this session. Well, there's a reason why it's different, and the reason is my guest today, Jeff McQuilkin, who I met via Alignable. And as you all know, I work on Alignable, helping users understand how to use that big purple thing to drive their business and meet people, drive referrals. And Jeff was in my training sessions over and over again. He teased out kind of what he did for work. And I said, man, I'm not really sure what the heck that is, but something about sonic branding sounded cool as shit. And I was like, I got to get Jeff in a one-on-one conversation to understand what's going on. So Jeff is the problem today. He's the guy that kind of created this whole new intro to my podcast, which I think is pretty cool. And by the way, when you hear something like this, there's elements to this, but Jeff, super stoked to have you here today. Pleasure to have you on the PR Bunker podcast, and welcome to the bunker.
Hey, thanks, Don. I really appreciate you inviting me.
Anytime, man. So I was fascinated with your story and the work that you do in this particular space. And as you know, as we've gotten to know each other, I'm big on music, from De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Foo Fighters, and everything in between. So first and foremost, introduce yourself to the PR Bunker audience and tell us about what you do for work.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, name's Jeff McQuilkin. I have been a composer for 30 plus years. I've been scoring for film and TV for how about the last 10 years, and came across this opportunity to help small businesses, kind of like almost by accident, but I kind of don't believe in accidents. I was I had a side hustle as a writer, freelance writer, and I had a client, a wood flooring company that was opening a branch office in a new city, 40-year-old company, and they did not have any traction among their competitors in the new city. So they decided to take out a TV spot, and because they knew I was a composer, they asked me to write the music for them. So I looked at the situation. I said, these are good friends of mine. I don't want to just write to this ad. I want to give them something they can use for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote to the brand instead of the ad. I wrote a piece of music that sounded like them, and with a little audio logo at the end to kind of as an extra little bonus for them. They loved what I did. They put it on the ad, and they got back to me 6 months later, and they said, this ad is greatly overperformed. We've made $500,000 in revenue. And we have, local polls in the field. We're now top of mind in the polls after having almost no brand visibility in this area.
That's great.
We're one of the first wood flooring companies people will call now for a quote. So I looked at that and I said, that's really something. And I knew what sonic branding was, but I never thought I would get into that field. But sonic branding is basically giving your brand a sound. It's the simplest way to put it. Whether it's a short little clip like the Netflix sound when you open up Netflix, right? Or the McDonald's sound at the end of every commercial, ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Those are short, sweet examples of it. But there's also kind of the longer form branded music, which I did for this client as well. So I looked around and I saw that this will really help small businesses in a lot of different ways, but nobody was offering it to them. All the agencies that serve sonic branding packages are serving the big companies. And they are charging between anywhere from $25,000 minimum to $200,000 for these packages.
Good money if you can get it, right?
Yeah. But, they're also probably spending a few months to come up with a couple of seconds of music because of all the committees and the focus groups and things it has to go through. It doesn't have to be that elaborate for a small business. right? You've got one or two decision makers that kind of know what they want people to feel
Hmm.
when they think
Hmm.
about their brand. And so you work on that level, and the science works the same. So it doesn't, there's a reason those companies use sonic branding. We get into it when you want to, but that's my story, and that's how I got into this. And
Mm,
since I've been running this now for about a year, and I'm getting good clients, and some of the testimonials are starting to come in about how this is helping them.
awesome. I love the story, man. It's like I feel like you're the guy that owns like headspace in people's brains because you create all these little like snippets of sound that people may or may not identify with, but they just stick. And so you
Mhm.
clearly have done this for me. So today was the
Mhm.
day that I launched the PR Bunker Sonic brand, which I freaking absolutely love. And it lived in my head for weeks as you and I were working on this.
Mhm.
I think it's pretty cool. I think it's unique to me, which and you and I have talked about the process, but it's not like just going on to any one of these apps and just kind of banging out some music in GarageBand. But you had a bit of a process, and it kind of taught me how we got from, hey, your dad was a Led Zeppelin, Jim Croce, James Taylor. Your mom was a Four Tops, which means he's a rock plus hip hop kind of guy. You extracted this information out of me, but like, walk us through that process when you like every small business, whether you're a bookkeeper, a lawyer, we're all different. We all kind of grow up in different environments. What does your process look like based on the business you're working with? And just kind of walk us through from the time I was yapping at you about Zeppelin and Tribe Called Quest to what you heard at the start of this episode, which is the PR Bunker Sonic brand.
Okay, sure. So what I do, like I did with you, we sit down, we have an initial session with the company, with the owners, and we just talk to, I just learn about them. I learn about who they are. I learn about their company, their origin story, their passions, why they do what they do, who they're trying to reach. If they, whatever research they have about their target market is helpful. And then most importantly, we talk about intangibles, like how do you want people to feel when they think about your company, because this is a branding asset that conveys emotion. Even if we just do it in a couple of seconds, we can still convey emotion. So that's the first step. Then I go away and I conduct research. I research their competitors to see what they're doing as far as sound and music, if anything. I research their target market, find out what kind of music they're responding to. And so between the intersection, we look for kind of the intersection of who that person and brand and company is and who they're trying to reach. And then we, out of that, in that intersection, we create two or three demos. We come back, we have a listening session, we play the demos. Um, and just as a case example, we were working together. You mentioned kind of two different things about who you were, and that was kind of the rock and the rap and jazz with your background. And so I actually create, and basically, in researching your area, I kind of found an open space for us to carve out and lean into who you are rather than lean into what the audience was listening to.
Mm,
Because in your area, a lot of people are just doing corporate music. And the best way to stand out is to make something that matches your personality. And interesting, and I held this information back from you just to make sure I got the right response. But I actually wrote the rock track that you hear, and then I wrote a kind of a jazz hip hop fusion thing,
nice, nice.
influenced by kind of a Tribe Called Quest. And I played those both for you. You leaned to this one. And then I told you my research also said if you're from Boston and you're trying to emanate that heritage, it's rock. That's
Yeah,
what you do. And
yep,
so that's where we leaned into. So,
love
but
that.
for many clients, it takes a few times to make sure we get it right. So once I play the demos, one of three things happens. They either love one and we decide to build it out. They may not like any of them, at which point they'll give me notes about what they didn't like and what they'd like to hear next, and I'll go back and try again. Or a lot of times it's, I like this, but I'd like to hear something a little different. Can we
Mm,
can we revise it? I'll go
yeah,
back and make revisions.
hmm,
Rinse and repeat till we have it right.
got it.
Then we master the tracks, get them broadcast ready, and then I teach them how to use it for maximum effect
It's an
before we let them
interesting
go.
it's an interesting process because just like color and anything that's creative, everybody has an opinion. Is that the right
Mhm.
color blue? Is that the right sound? Is that a hi hat or is it a large cymbal? Like all those things, right? And
Mhm.
unless you are like Dave Grohl or any one of those folks that have played in front of hundreds of thousands of people, most of us don't have the technical ability to understand the nuances and all this. But one of the things that I picked up early on was, clearly out of all the bands I love, from again Zeppelin, Beatles, and Kings of Leon, Incubus, Foo Fighters has always been kind of a mainstay of mine. And I just love the story of, the origin of Dave Grohl and how he started that band
Mhm.
by himself, played all the instruments. And I'm a big drum guy. Like there's sometimes I'll listen to music where I don't even hear the lyrics. I just hear the beat and I'm just kind of going along with it. One of the things I picked up and what you produced for me was clearly the start of that beat. And what I love about Foo Fighters really kind of got me was a lot of the stuff that Dave Grohl was influenced by was kind of like, Chicago funk, right? And a little bit of jazz. And so a lot of his riffs come from stuff that's not traditionally rock and roll. So it comes from that other side of my brain, which was Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul. So it's kind of
Mhm.
a beautiful blending of this whole thing. And I do like you walked me through, and I'd love to have you kind of talk through this. What's execution like this look for a brand? So you and I have a conversation. You hand me a couple cool things that I can just listen to over and over again. But like, outside of what you heard today, which was, my introduction, and then I played the sort of the Sonic brand clip as I was doing the introduction. How else would a brand use this stuff, and how and why is it effective? And what's the maturation of this as you move forward in your work?
Well, yeah. Okay. So, basically, this, just to give you a little bit of history, the early precursor of what I do is the jingle. A lot of people immediately assume I write jingles when I
Got it.
tell them what I do.
The jingle guy,
Okay.
right?
Right. The jingle guy. The difference is jingles are written to the ad space. They were primarily relegated to TV and radio. And there's still a lot of work for composers in the advertising space. It looks a little different now. Right. Sonic branding uses the same science, but it's a different approach. Today we write to the brand instead of the ad. And that's especially important for small businesses because, as you know, a lot of small businesses aren't using TV and radio advertising. It's a little pricey. It
Yeah,
doesn't
can't
have the
afford it. You're right.
same ROI as it used to. It makes sense for some companies, like the wood flooring company helped, but a lot of companies it doesn't. But we have these democratized platforms now. We have YouTube. We have reels and shorts, TikTok, Instagram. We do podcasts, right? Like we're doing now. We actually geared your package around the podcast first because that was your first application for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then, but we have these different ways that we can do it and use it. Even live experiences, like if you're in a brick and mortar store, you can play your music in there. The wood flooring company now uses it for their on hold music. So there's
Nice.
all sorts of applications that you can do it for.
Nice. Because that on hold music is deadly. Man, sometimes it's like you wanna jump off a bridge or you're like totally jamming out. And by the time the person answers the call again, oh geez, I was
Right.
kind of rocking out, but I agree.
Yeah, for sure. But so that's, those are just a few of the applications. But here's the good and bad. The good thing is when you're using those democratized platforms, you can put your content up for free or cheap. You can be a content creator, right? The bad news is that a lot of these platforms, you're immediately pitted up against your competitors because that's
Mm,
how the algorithms work.
valid.
All right. If you've ever clicked on a Facebook ad, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Your feed just fills up with everything like what you clicked on. So how do you differentiate yourself when the platform you're using is flooding the space with everybody you don't want them to hear
Yeah.
about? So the idea is you have a mnemonic device in the brain, and that's where sonic branding comes in. And the research is really solid on this. The studies have shown sonic branding can improve brand recall by up to 96%.
Wow.
That's why the big brands do it. They're not doing it to make their brands fancy. They're doing it because they know sound does a better job of developing brand recall than visuals do. And brand recall drives more sales. They
Yeah.
want more sales just like everybody else.
Yeah. And in a world
So,
where we're all 30 seconds away from our next distraction, if you can grab those 10 seconds in somebody's brain, I could probably rip off about a half a dozen, if not a dozen, jingle type of tunes, 800, Empire,
mhm,
1-800 car for kids. It goes down the line. It just, that repetitiveness and just the tonality of it
right.
just sticks.
I mean,
You remember because you hate it or you remember because you love it.
I remember jingles from the 70s for brands that don't exist anymore.
I love that.
And
Love it.
their jingles outlived them in my mind. They have
All
free
right.
rent in my mind for life.
Quick sidebar. What are your top 3 jingles that you can't get rid of in your brain?
Oh, gosh, you know what? I joke about this all the time because the story, I'm going to give you one
All
because
right.
there's a story behind it. You remember Vitalis? Okay. So heads are turning to Vitalis, right? I heard that in the 70s as a kid trying to get the attention of girls and watching all these guys get swarmed with girls on these commercials with this jingle, I'm like, "Mom, I gotta have that stuff." So she got it for me.
Wow.
And it didn't work,
Of course. Of course.
But that's kind of the key. And another example for me is, and it's not necessarily a favorite, but it's one that works the best. I tell people all the time, if I'm driving, and this apologies in advance to any auto glass companies we have listening, but when I'm driving anywhere in the country, if I have a rock put through my windshield and cracks the windshield, I'm not going to Google where are some local auto glass shops. You know what I'm going to do?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to look up Safe Light.
Yep.
Safe
Safe
Light
light
repair,
repair.
Safe Light
Safe light
repair,
replace. Yeah.
right? Because
That's
that's
crazy.
permanently stuck in my head. So that's one example where one company absolutely cornered the
Yeah.
market with their sound.
So great,
So
so great.
yeah.
I love that
So
stuff. So let me ask you
you,
this. I mean, clearly, we live in a society now where it's visual and audio, right? I mean, that creative element of just delivering a message is so present these days because nobody's going to spend 3 hours reading, 3,000 words, unless they're reading a book or they're more, it's casually digesting content. From your perspective, especially with SMBs, where is the field going? Where are you pushing the limits in your business to work with SMBs? Because you're right. I mean, SMBs have a hard time. One, they've got to make sure they're driving revenue, get foot traffic, and so on and so forth. And they have limited dollars. So you
Mhm.
think about, where you were 10 years ago, 6 months ago when I first met, things have progressed. But where's it going? Where's the industry going? And specifically, where do you hope to take your company and your brand as you move forward?
Okay, yeah. So I think obviously, first of all, the big question is AI, because I don't get it often, but I do get the question, couldn't I
Mm,
just use AI to
yeah,
develop this?
yeah.
And right now, fingers crossed, what I do is pretty much AI proof. And here's why. Because number one, the law says that AI generated material can't be copyrighted.
There
So
you
it's
go.
effectively public domain as soon as
Nice.
you create it. So you can create your own sonic branding using an AI platform.
But somebody else
But
can
if
rip it
you
off.
do that, somebody else could rip it off. And so that's just one potential complication. The second is it's really hard to get anything that really stands out, because the key to sonic branding is it needs to be original, it needs to be exclusive, and it needs to be memorable. It's not just a piece
Mm,
of music that's just yours. It needs to have something in it that sticks in people's minds.
mm-hmm,
That's the nature of it. So it's hard to get that from generative AI, because that's almost kind of a misnomer.
mm-hmm,
It's really derivative AI.
mm-hmm,
It's trained on existing compositions.
mm-hmm.
Those music platforms that create AI music are trained on thousands and thousands of existing compositions written by humans. And a lot of times they're training it without their permission, without
Got it.
any kind of license agreement in place.
Got it.
The best it can do, the best AI can do, is make something that sounds like something else.
Got it.
And the third thing, this is a long shot, but if like you create sonic branding with AI and a composer hears something in that sounds very much like something they did, they've got the copyright and you don't. So guess what happens?
The lawyers stop come knocking.
The lawyers start knocking on the door. It's just not something you want to deal with. It's better to
Interesting.
just have it human created. So what I do is it's actually protectable. Have a model where, whether I hold the right or whether they buy the rights from me, somebody holds the intellectual property on this sonic branding. So
I love that.
it can't be duplicated and dilute your brand.
Yeah, that
So
was
that's
something
one.
that
Yeah.
was really attractive to me when we first started having a conversation because to your point, you watch videos these days, you have no idea what's real or what's not. And I think, I've messed around with those AI music apps and it's right. You're just doing something. It's either as a joke or something you're just trying to, send to your family group chat or something like that. But it's not, if you're building a business, every little inch of ideas, thoughts, things you create is yours. And you want to protect
Mhm.
that in some way, shape or form. And you're right. I mean, it takes decades to build reputations, but they can be tarnished in seconds. For example, if I created something like what we played at the front end of this podcast off one of those apps that I didn't protect, and some major company in California said, "Hey, look, here's a letter with a $10 million lawsuit behind it." I can't fight that fight, right? So. I think protecting small business intellectual property, I think, is a smart play, and I think that your process has been one for me personally, kind of learning for me because clearly as I work with my companies and my clients and folks that are, things I'm doing through Alignable, oftentimes I'm asked, do you know somebody who can? And introducing the sonic branding as a kind of a nice, spoke in this large wheel of, developing a reputation of brand, I think is really smart, especially in today's world where, again, as I said a million times over, we're 30 seconds away from a next distraction. But Wouldn't it be nice
Mhm.
to own that 30 seconds in somebody's brain, just like you've done with
Right,
me?
exactly, exactly, and, that is the key because what it's doing is it's creating a mnemonic device in the brain that we can hold on to, and the jingles that we've just referred to are proof positive of that. The science is the same. I mentioned that it improves brain recall by up to 96%. There's another huge study Ipsos did on advertising that says that ads that use sonic branding are 8.5 times more likely to overperform. That's what I saw happen with that wood flooring company. It's like supercharging the effectiveness of it. You wanted to know where the industry's going. First of all,
Mm,
I do think we're going to be looking for more and more applications where to put sonic branding, especially in the small business world. Because honestly, right now it's kind of a blue ocean. Nobody's really small businesses. Half my challenge is letting people know what this is, and then explaining to them how it will help them grow their business, help them get more dollars in their accounts, just like it does to big companies, right? We just don't think of it. It's not on our radar. But then when I explain what it is, and they're like, oh, and they start telling me all the jingles that they remember,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
So it's all around us all the time. It's not a secret. It's in plain view. It's just been the domain of large businesses. So where I think the industry is going, I think that we're going to be looking for more and more applications to use sonic branding. I think small businesses are going to need to start looking at this because we're crowding the digital spaces where we're occupying and we need differentiators, and this
mm,
provides that. And
that's great.
so eventually, I think more small businesses will, especially as more companies maybe offer a pricing model that people can afford, they'll get on board and start using this.
Yeah.
And looking for other applications. We've talked about AI. A different approach to that is I'm actually having conversations with several people I met on Alignable that are creating AI agents for, if you answer the phone, somebody calls in, an AI agent answers the phone 24/7 for you. That's a perfect place to put a little audio
Mm,
logo
valid. Absolutely.
because if before the agent begins to speak, play your brand sound.
Yeah. Hold, please.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and so, and that to your point again, because you played two different things at the beginning of this podcast. You played your theme, your 30-second theme, and then you played a little clip.
Yep.
Right. That's kind of the two things I deal with. That little clip is called an audio logo. It's meant to play when your logo displays. That's basically the idea behind it. The bigger thing is a full sonic branding package. You actually have a minute version of this music. You have that version we played for the podcast, and you have a 15-second version. So that gives you more options for creating different content and different lengths.
Yeah. Gives you some
Right.
flexibility. It's like
And
having
then
a
we
like a
integrate the audio logo into it. You noticed it happened at the end of the theme. So that all flows together.
Yep.
So, but
That's
just
great.
putting an audio logo at the beginning of anything you can do to engage with your audience, audio visually, is an opportunity to get your sound in their mind so they remember you.
Love it.
And I
And
think
it
think we're going to find more and more creative ways to do that, even as technology evolves.
I think you're dead on, my friend. I think we're AI comes into play, intellectual property, small businesses fighting the good fight. I mean, I think you are absolutely barking up the right tree like a 125-pound German Shepherd, man. I think you're, yeah. And like I said, when you and I first had a conversation, I realized how attainable it was for me, very affordable. Process was great. I think it really, it's something I feel like I created, which is kind of weird. And I didn't do anything; and just give you kind of a suggestion. So, love where we were headed. So, I always ask kind of a curveball question to people that I interview, but this is going to be pretty easy. Maybe not easy, but you'll kind of you know where I'm going with the question. All right, so you're on an island and you've got to take 10 records with you, and that's all you got from now until whenever. What are you bringing from a musical collection perspective? Run it. It doesn't have to be 1 through 10, just a random
Right.
group of 10. What are you taking with you from a tune perspective?
Okay. So I would have to take a collection. I would take a Foo Fighters record with
Okay,
me because I like that vibe. I would find probably one of my favorite pieces of classical music.
nice,
Would be probably the New World Symphony by Dvorak,
nice,
probably my favorite.
nice.
I would take Schindler's List
There you
by
go.
John Williams.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
me, that violin theme is
Powerful,
probably the most beautiful piece of music ever written.
very powerful.
Looking at, well, let's see. I would take a couple soundtrack albums. I would take probably Shawshank Redemption with Thomas Newman.
Great. Look, by the way, in that opening scene when Andy Dufresne is going into the jail and the
Mhm,
the boom camera comes over the jail and it
mhm.
shows the bus coming into play. What that is that a cello?
I think it might be, or it might be violins.
Whatever
Yeah,
that 30 seconds is. I mean, I have like
yeah.
fascinated over like what hip hop artists can do. I mean, that is such a powerful sound, and with the visual, it's fantastic. It's
Yeah,
fantastic. That's a good
you're
call.
not wrong. And I relate a lot to Thomas Newman as a composer. I'm compared to him a lot as far as my film scoring stuff
Okay,
goes.
nice, nice.
So I do that. I'd probably take a few records from my past,
Yeah,
just to keep, well, I didn't, as a child, I wasn't really honestly into this, but I'm a late adopter of Fleetwood Mac. Love
nice.
Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, yeah, good call. I saw
I
Stevie
do.
Nicks at the Garden with my wife and kids 2 or 3 months ago. Sounded fantastic.
Isn't
She's
she
like,
amazing?
yeah, she's what,
Yeah,
in her 80s or something like that. I mean, she's still rocking out, man. Super, like on the stage, moving around, like twirling the microphone. Incredible.
it's really cool. So those are some examples of what I would do.
Love
But
it.
yeah, yeah. So I would
Love it.
take a variety of genres because I do have a somewhat broad palette. I wouldn't want to
Same.
be just one thing. I hate that Stephen Colbert questionnaire where
Yeah.
says you've got one song. I'm like, screw it. I'm just my song is a revolver.
If I had to get stuck with one song, it'd probably Walk This Way with the Run DMC version because it'd have a little hip hop with an
I can see
Aerosmith.
that.
Because
That
I need
combines
to have both.
both of things you
I'd
love.
have to have both, man. I'd have to have both. Well, awesome. Oh, if I highly recommend if you're out there as a small business owner and you're in a crowded space, you just feel like you want your up level your marketing. I would absolutely 1,000%, and this is no bullshit. Got to talk to Jeff. Talk about the process. He will give you some free counsel. So if you're just starting today or been in business for 10 years, I don't care. You should think about adding this to your investment stack. It's a very short investment, very reasonable, and it's not like this reoccurring thing, but it's a one-time building block, which becomes the foundation for your marketing moving forward. So, Jeff, where can people find more about you and your company and everything else?
Okay, sure. So learn more about my business. My business is called Jetstream Sonic, right? And you can just go to jetstreamsonic.com
Hmm.
to find the latest information on it. There's a lot of Q&A there, a lot of stuff that you can see, and there's some samples. There's some samples on the site you can listen to. To schedule a consultation with me, I do a free 1-hour strategy session, no obligation kind of thing, to find out where you are with content marketing and what you could use this for and see if it's a good fit. And that would be, you can just book a 15-minute slot off the website, or you can go to meetjeffmchugh.com and sign up for a free hour.
Love it.
Okay, so
Love it.
those are some great ways to just connect with me and chat. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Alignable. You want to connect, want to ask questions, I'm always on those places.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you being here in the bunker. Thank you for the work you've done for my company and the work that I'm doing here. I think it's been an incredible experience for me as a marketer who's been in this business for 30 years. I've never done something like this either for me or even my clients. So it just
Hmm.
gives me a nice little feather in my cap or a quill in the little pouch behind my back for an arrow for my clients. Like I said before, folks, if you are a small business owner, this is very attainable. I think it's a brilliant add to your marketing. It does set you apart. Whether you're in the trades and you're a carpenter in Boston or a photographer in LA, bookkeeper in the middle of Nebraska, or you just want to up level your marketing. I mean, we are in a visual and audio society these days. It's a reason why, artists are dropping, save the playlist on Spotify weeks before the album drops because we can't go to a record store anymore. We are in this content digestion state as a society. And if you want to level up your marketing, Sonic branding where it's at, man. So, Jeff, I can't thank you enough for being here, being down here in the bunker with me. Appreciate the tunes, man. Appreciate you listening to the Foo Fighters La De La Soul. And I'm super stoked to see where this thing goes. And again, thanks for joining the PR Bunker.
Hey, thanks again for having me. I've enjoyed my time here.
Absolutely, brother.
Thanks for tuning in to the PR Bunker podcast, where we go beyond the headlines and into the trenches with founders, builders, and operators making real moves. This show is brought to you by the PR Bunker, a strategic communications agency helping mission-driven and impact-focused organizations cut through the noise and tell stories that matter. Want to learn more? Head to prbunker.com and subscribe to the Bunker Briefing, our monthly email newsletter packed with a 45-second read that's stacked with value. We're talking practical PR and communications insights, networking tips, and strategies to help you navigate the moments that matter. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. We've got more raw, real conversations on the way, so stay locked in.